Matas Buzelis is one of the lone bright spots for the Chicago Bulls that people are looking forward towards the end of the season. On today's episode, me and Pat are going to discuss his chances of getting in the Rookie of the Year conversation if he continues starting between now and the end of the season. We're going to talk about that all and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. That's Pat, the designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze, and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Hayes, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central, Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. Pat, we're going to start off talking about Matas Buzelis, man. He's had a really solid, I know he started the last two games, which is a lot's been made of that, but even outside of that, over the last 5 games, Matas Buzelis is second in the rookie list as far as scoring per game at 15.6. The only player scoring more than him in the last 5 games is Stephon Castle with 19. He's also had a 30, almost a 40-point game in that stretch, which watch out for him now that De'Aaron Fox is there. He's going to have a lot of scoring opportunities. Matas Buzelis is also the number 1 block getter for rookies. He's at top 11 in rebounds per game, and even I think he's in the top 12 to 15 of assists per game as well. What it comes down to is Matas Buzelis is hooping. How do you feel about his chances to get in the rookie of the year conversation?
Listen, I think that they're very high. Now you've got to show more time, and realistically speaking, the part that may hurt him is just not enough time doing it. Steven Castle kind of dealt with that, but he came out the gate basically like, all right, I'm gonna punch y'all in the face with how I'm hooping right now. But I think when you look at also the numbers that Matas has put up, and it's not just how he's been scoring, because I believe he's, like you said, he's second in scoring there, but he's the most efficient out of the three of the 3 top names that are in there. Castle and Rashard are kind of those 2 top scorers, and he's doing it at a clip that, now again, a 10 for 10 game will help you, but he's doing it at a clip where like the confidence is just exuding from him, and it doesn't seem like it's going to slow down. He's one of those players who I think is in a rare position that the other rookies are not in, and why I think if he continues to start, this may actually be his award to win. He's the only one who's kind of in a position where the team is in such a flux where they're like, we're just looking for somebody to be great, right? When you look at what's going on in Sacramento, right, there's a ton of guys that need the basketball there. When you look at what's happening in Atlanta with Ricochet, Trae Young, right? He's going to take 28 shots. He's going to hit 6 of them, and he's going to say, I'm efficient. But I think
Ricochet, though, with Jalen Johnson being gone and them also sending out Hunter, it does open up a lot more shots for Ricochet towards the end of the season.
True. I agree with that, but I think like none of them have the opportunity to continue to develop to the point where it's like, okay, we have to get him shots. We have no choice. But because everybody else has a number 1 that's on their team, right? We look at Sacramento.
I mean, we have a number 1 too. Kobe's going to get the majority of the shots.
That's great.
Kobe's going to get more shots than Matas Buzelis.
Kobe's going to keep getting shots, and then my point is, if Matas continues to grow with the time that he's getting, eventually even Billy Donovan is going to have to look around and go, okay, we got to get him more shots.
You put a lot more trust in Billy Donovan than I do. If that's what you like, I listen. I get what you're saying there, and your logic is sound. But to say that Billy Donovan would ever look at a rookie and be like, oh yeah, we got to get him more shots. Well, you still got Vooch, Kobe, even Josh Giddey's getting more shots than Matas Buzelis right now. I want to be on your side. I don't doubt your logic. I doubt Billy Donovan.
Well, I think here's the thing though, right? Like the organization is finally taking this directional stance of like, we're trying to go with these younger guys. The fact that Matas is even in the starting lineup is a completely different world than we've ever lived with in a young guy since P. Will has been here, right? Like I think that there is a shift in the mindset that is happening up there, and it is to focus on, hey, we might have something here that we need to invest in a heck of a lot more. The only way to invest in him is to give him more shots. You see what he's done on 10, get him 12. What's he going to do on 12? Get him 15, right? That's how you build this up. And I love Matas's mindset. I saw Joe Cowley's article the other day, shout out Junior Varsity, where he talked about the tough love situation that Matas has kind of been put in, where it's like, sit on the bench. We're not really paying attention to you right now. All right, we need you. Come in. And just every opportunity, every turn he's taken that opportunity and ran with it. I do think he's got a good case for Rookie of the Year, and I think he's got a good case for growth here.
So you think right now, currently, Matas Buzelis has a case for Rookie of the Year?
I don't know if you could say currently because it's only 7 games.
Yeah.
But I think that if we get to the end of the season and this continues, because none of the other players are in situation, or I shouldn't say they're not in situations. None of the other players are as efficient as Matas. And I do think that will play an impact on the award if he continues to be this efficient by the end of the season, because that's something we're not really seeing a ton of in the NBA. Like, you may score more points than me, but I'm doing it on 10 shots and I'm almost averaging as much as you.
I get what you're saying. And I just don't know if the Rookie of the Year cases ever come down to efficiency. I think a lot of it does come down to storylines, and I do see rookies with better storylines, mainly because they're on national TV a lot more than the Bulls are. I don't think we have another national televised TV game for the rest of the season.
We're really talking Atlanta. Sacramento probably will be.
Sacramento will. Atlanta definitely will. For some reason, they love fitting Trae Young on with that hairline on TV.
it's
the Spurs, Stephon Castle's going to because of Wemby. He's definitely going to be on national TV a lot.
Yeah.
So, is that like
I Sacramento? Why was I saying Sacramento? The Spurs. I'm tweaking.
Oh, that's what you meant was the Spurs.
I kept saying Sacramento. The Spurs. Yes.
But then I think also a chance that Matas does have, and this goes back to the national TV part of the conversation, is the dunk contest. Him being in the dunk contest could put quite a bit of difference in the last part of the season. I don't know how much it changes the Rookie of the Year race, but if Matas goes out and puts on a show at the dunk contest and wins it, there are going to be a lot of people like, hey, who's this Matas kid?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, listen, I think that it adds a light. If he wins it, it adds a major light. And when you look at just how these guys have been playing, I mean, you look at Stephen Castle's numbers over the last 10, you look at Matas's over the last 7, because he wasn't playing 20 minutes over his last 10 for most of it. You start to see some of those similarities. Again, I think the efficiency kind of reigns out. Matas is shooting a better 3-point percentage than anybody in this grouping that we're talking about right now. I think there's a lot that is working in Matas's favor. Again, it'll have to be a major push at the end of the season, and you'll have to have more of those Miami Heat style games or the Warriors style games than what you had, where it's like 12 points here and there. But I mean, I think he can get the averages up there. He can get the consistency up there, and I think that will play a big part in kind of him being in the conversation. Whether he wins it, that's up to the voters. But to say he has a case by the end of the year, I can see him having a case.
Yeah, if we're making the conversation and have a case, I do think, like I said, those storyline things, the dunk contest, and getting more minutes at his actual performance as well. And I think the one thing that you can't overlook as well is the excitement factor. Matas Buzelis just plays an exciting brand of basketball.
Yeah.
So for when people finally do tune in more and see the Chicago Bulls play, even if they're just tuning in and be like, hey, I want to see more of this rookie I just saw perform crazy in the dunk contest, he's going to have that type of game where people are going to be like, oh, crap, this dude's kind of exciting. So it all comes down to Matas. Rookie of the Year conversation or not, this is the back part of the season is built around, like, how much does Matas continue to develop? Does he stay starting? I know you said that earlier, like, well, the fact that it's starting is something we haven't seen. I don't know if Lonzo didn't go down, if we didn't have all the injuries, if he would be starting. But, I mean, I think now, like, Billy Donovan would be crazy. Like, he would have to really explain himself to go back to a four-guard lineup when you have an actual forward that's playing the way that Matas Buzelis is.
I think that's the thing, too, right? It's not just the offense. It's the defensive side of the basketball as well. Yeah. Matas is not – listen, one-on-one Matas is not Jimmy Butler, right? But the defense has improved greatly as the season has gone on. I think he's gotten much better with the footwork. I think he's much better in the pick and roll game. I think he got picked on a little bit early when he got some of those early opportunities. Now pick on him if you want to. He's kind of realized, okay, I've got the length where I can either play under this and get back up, or if you try to go underneath, I can meet you at the rim. I think he does a really good job of making shots much more difficult now, just trying to use his length and not trying to block every shot. Because early on, I think he was like, I'm the shot.
He was Tyrese Thomason.
He was Tyrese Thomason, bro.
All you had to do was move your eyebrows. He was jumping. He was jumping.
Early on, he had a lot of Tyrese Thomas to him. I was nervous on the defensive end, but I think he's gotten much better at just going, I'm just taller and longer than all of y'all, so I'm going to just put my arms up and make this shot as difficult as possible for you. So I think that even that playing into it as well, right? Are any of these guys two-way guys? I think Matas is trying to make a case for being a two-way guy right now.
I see. We can see that. We'll see what happens. Overall, I think
Castle do be still in that ball though.
But but his own ball defense is like,
Well,
But with that said, man, we're gonna continue the conversation. We're gonna talk about do we see any lineup changes coming for the Chicago Bulls after the All-Star break? Because we only have 2 games left before the All-Star break. We'll talk about all that. But first, we gotta get to a message from Open Phone. Running a small business means you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. That's where Open Phone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, you can get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. Open Phone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. And if you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your computer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, Open Phone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OPENPHONE.com/LockedOnNBA for 20% off your first 6 months. Openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. If you have an existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, Patrick. I owe you one because you had an unneeded Cordero randomly.
First off, I owe you like 600. You didn't get me once a week for 3 years, pretty much.
That's a fact. That's fair. With that said, man, the Bulls have 2 games left before the All-Star break. There's some doubt and question on if Lonzo is going to play in this game or not. We know that last game the Bulls tried to work in Kevin Huerter and Trey Jones into the lineup as well. We got 2 new players, but they're going to get a chance for a lot more practices. Julian, Phillips, Dalen, these guys have kind of fallen out of the rotation. Do you see anything changing with the lineup or the rotation coming out of the All-Star break, Pat?
I think you kind of touched on it, right? Maybe the Lonzo Ball situation is one where you see some changes come in. Do you want Lonzo in that starting lineup? But realistically speaking, I mean, like, I'm very comfortable with where the Bulls are lineup wise right now for the first time in a while. Maybe the only thing that I could think that they do, right? Because you're kind of going with this Io, Kobe, Giddey, Matas, Vooch lineup while Lonzo has been out. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I wonder about is, would you rather have Io off the bench or in the starting unit? Who's it going to be easier on the transition? But the thing is, both Io and both Io and Lonzo fit whatever role you put them in very well. I think the big question now is does that mean Trey Jones is done playing ball? Right? That's kind of the lineup change that I think that we've seen in the last game, where you look at it and go, okay, maybe he's got something there. Maybe there's some game that you can get out of him. The turnover to assist ratio is great, but we also just signed Lonzo Ball for 2 years, and Trey Jones' contract is up at the end of this year. Mm-hmm. I would think that's probably the biggest lineup change that we'll see moving forward. I don't know how you would take Matas out of the starting lineup. You would cause a riot in Chicago at this point. Like, Bulls fans would.
Well, I mean, I think Bulls fans do equally love Lonzo as well, but like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, I get it. When at a time when you were when the Bulls were just trying to figure out what the heck was going to stick, and we had so many injuries, and Matas wasn't necessarily a proven commodity, but at this point, Matas has done nothing while he's been in the starting lineup that would warrant him being benched. There's no conversation. Everything he's done has been. I mean, he has normal rookie mistakes and he has had some defensive lapses, but like overall, when we're looking at the total impact, he hasn't done anything that you can look at and say, no, this is why you don't need to start. He's actually played really, really good in that role. And why keep playing 4 guards if you don't need to? Now, it is Billy Donovan, so you never know. You always have to throw that in there when it's Billy Donovan. You just never know, bro.
Dog, I think this is the thing, though, right? Like, number one, the 4-guard lineup, it's not like it's working. It's not like it's this elite lineup that is increasing. I mean, I guess it's probably the best defensive rating that you've got because of the defensive ability of that team. But you finally have, it feels like over the last 4 games, you finally have a mismatch. Like Matas is a mismatch for so many dudes because number one, he's shooting the ball from the 4 position comfortably, which is something we haven't had over the last 3 years with Patrick Williams. He's shooting it confidently. And on top of that, he's actually making people closing out and has a pump fake that works because he may drive past you and put it on top of your head. Take that for what you will. Like I can't see you taking away a clear advantage to go back to something that makes you feel comfortable because of what veteran presence and if they did that, that to me is so egregious. Billy Donovan should be fired on the spot because that's you trying to snuff out what a young player can do.
Yeah. I mean, I think you want to keep rewarding the confidence. The bigger thing that I'm looking for, like, because I do think Matas stays in the starting lineup. I hope that he does. It just makes sense to keep him in the starting lineup. The thing I'm looking at is like that Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, Dalen Terry, Julian Phillips. Like out of those 4 players, which 2 play? That's the thing that I'm looking for.
Kevin Huerter got to start making shots.
Yeah, he's already not a defender. So Kevin Huerter isn't. I mean, he's a solid rebounder for a guard, but all of our guards are solid rebound. We have some of the best rebounding guards in the league, which is usually that may be something that on some teams that could get him in there a little bit, but he's not that, right? Like he hasn't been that, or we have a lot of people that could be that. He's not a good defender. But then again, like Dalen Terry's averaging 4 points a game. Like, so it's like I want to see more Julian, but
tough take. Dalen's done.
You think Dalen's finally done?
I think it's time. It's been long enough. Dalen gives you what, 1 fun game out of every 8, where it's like not only is he knocking down shots, but defensively he's clamping somebody up and he's making steals in the middle of the court. Not to say his career is done. Listen, Dalen Terry is one of those players that you do need and teams don't have a ton of. It's not to say that he's done as a player. I think he's probably done here though, because you're not getting and unless you're just gonna wait like you did with P. Will.
That's the thing with this front office, right? I think this front office is showing if you're less than 25 and your contract is up, as long as you're not trying to get crazy money, they're probably going to re-sign you.
I mean, what were we re-signing them for? 11 cents? like what? Like, you know what I mean? Like
I can see Dalen Terry getting a 4-year, $12 million deal.
You know what I can see? Honestly, I could see Dalen Terry becoming one of those players who right now is just not the time for him to get the best opportunity to succeed, even though he is getting starters minutes. I can see Dalen being one of those players that goes to the G League for a little while and comes back and is just like, okay, now I'm ready for this opportunity. I'm finna cook y'all. Like I really could see him being that kind, almost an Alex Caruso kind of player.
I mean, listen, Dalen Terry has, like, we've seen it a little bit in like small doses and flashes. So it's like it's there. Like that was that 2-game stretch where Dalen Terry, I think he scored 12 and 13 points in back-to-back games, something like that. Yeah. But in those 2 games, like Dalen Terry got the ball, and when he had somebody that he had more side, more length than, he was like, bet, I'm taking it to the rim. You're either going to foul me or I'm going to finish above you. Like, that's what Dalen Terry needs. It's not all about offense, right? Like defense, his passing in transition is really good. It's still really good. But I think Dalen is just one of those players that is like, because he doesn't have any one amazing or any one skill he can bet on every single game, that whole Swiss Army knife thing isn't working for him right now. He needs to refine it and start doing one thing really well for a while and then see what that turns into.
Yeah, I think you're looking at if he was consistent when the minutes went up, I think you could have more of a conversation on that,
That's
right?
fair.
But when Dalen plays 4 minutes, he can give you 10 points. When Dalen plays 13 minutes, sometimes he'll give you 10 points. When Dalen plays 20 minutes, sometimes he'll give you 2. You know, like the consistency there where Matas, it was clear cut to see. And unfortunately, he's the best example of somebody developing that we can see because it's happened so quickly. But like, you gave Matas 12 minutes, he said, I'm gonna score 10 points. You gave Matas 20 minutes, he said, bet I'm gonna put up 24. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, as time went on, his game expanded with the time. He's a true what's the freaking stat of true 48? He's a true 48 player. You know what I mean? Like, his 48 minutes expand out. It's not a Cristiano Felicio situation.
Yeah, I can see Dalen Terry maybe doing like, and eventually at some point in this, I'm not saying next season, but you know, like Dyson Daniel versus 2 years in New Orleans, people looked at him and was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he got to Atlanta, and for some reason it's taken off for him this year, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that eventually happens for Dalen once he kind of finds his rhythm and his groove, because he has so many intangibles and things that you look at. But again, like for players in the NBA that are those, they show a little bit of everything sometimes, but they haven't shown any one thing consistently. The era of that happening in the NBA is going further and further away. Like, teams are going away from those players quicker. Whereas back in the day, like, teams would invest in those guys 5-6 years, and then finally they start getting something. But now, because there's so many guys that do a little bit of everything and better, right? Especially, I think a lot of this with Dalen and Julian, for that matter, depends on what position the Bulls draft. Because if they draft another guy that can play 3, 4, or whatever else, yeah, they're out of the rotation at that point.
Right, yeah, and I mean, the real problem is you've kind of got this same makeup of guy, and none of them have shown to be leaps and bounds better than the other.
Yeah, maybe the Toronto Raptors want one of them, because they seem to just always find a way to accumulate a bunch of those type of guys. They just find a way. They sent out one last year, they got one back this year. Like, it's just like they just get those guys.
Just watching them trade for Brandon Ingram, I was like, so you traded for Pascal Siakam with worse defense
and a worse contract.
What just happened? Did you regret Pascal that much? Like, dang it! I knew we shouldn't have got rid of him.
That's like Kanye dating people that all look like Kim Kardashian. It's like
let's leave Kanye alone for a little while. Let Kanye stay where he at. Right? Don't go to Kanye.
Nobody knows where he's at, Pat. Nobody knows where he's at. Did you see that he flew down in New Orleans to save Kodak Black?
Yeah, he said he's going to get Kodak Black.
But then it turns out Kodak Black was doing that all for a video shoot, so he didn't even need to save Kodak Black.
I'm gonna save you, Kodak. I'm fine.
I'm coming. And it's like that video meme, whatever you call it, that dude, the cat's inside the bodega and the dude's looking through the door. I'm gonna get you out.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna do everything it takes to get you. But anyway, man, next up, we got to get into this next topic, the last one. I guess we started touching on it a little bit already, man. Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips' future. Why did we do that, y'all ask? Because we got to put that in for the ad breaks, nonetheless.
Yeah,
business, take care of business. But I know we talked about it a little bit, and just to wrap up the show, I just want to get like a solid answer from you in this one. Julian Phillips and Dalen Terry, are they Chicago Bulls next season? And if they're Chicago Bulls, do they actually get minutes next season?
Dalen's up for contract, right?
I think we already picked up the option on next year.
Picked up the option on him?
Already picked up the option.
He's probably a Bull. I think, listen, somebody has to be 14 to 15, right? It's probably them. We've seen the flashes. The question is, can you develop more out of the flashes?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to. I'm not sitting here telling you that these guys are going to be done in the NBA. Dalen probably ends up being a piece that gets moved if somebody does get traded, right? If a Vooch gets traded or something like that, and you want to make the money work, or you want to send, if somebody's like, send us a young piece, I think Dalen is that candidate. Because you have seen flashes, you have seen the passing prowess that could be in there. You have seen the defense that he can show at times. You've seen him be able to mostly at the rim, right? Be able to drive downhill and use that length to his advantage to make an easy bucket, right? Like, I think that he could be a player like that. So I still do believe that his time in Chicago might be coming to a close here because of a guy like Matas. I think Julian's more intriguing for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think Julian is more intriguing for them. Like, definitely stronger going to the rim. The big question with Julian is consistency with the 3 ball, but it's also the fact that he's not getting the same level of shots that anybody else is getting in this lineup. If you get him more shots, what can he kind of turn into? I think the defense is a little bit more there with Julian Phillips as far as having the length and being a solid wing defender and stuff like that. Like, I think there's more intrigue in Julian right now because it feels like there's something there that you can grab onto and take from that player. I don't know if Dalen has that right now.
Yeah, Julian is the guy that it's interesting that he's fallen out of Billy Donovan's rotation because he offers so much of what Billy Donovan does, like playing, but it hasn't been consistent. And then when he had his injury, it's like both times that Julian was building up momentum, they both kind of got derailed by some injury and other things. So We'll see. I do think Julian is a guy that, he's only his second year. We've seen third year leaps, right? I think him putting in work, we can come back kind of more refined. I think with Julian, just has to come down to what I want to see from Julian. I know he offers some 3-point shooting, and I just want to see Julian be a defender and energy guy next year. I want to see him master that. If he can master that, I think he'll be okay.
So we want Julian Phillips to figure out how to be Dalen Terry. That's
not even what Dalen Terry does consistently. I want him to do it consistently, right?
Well, and you know what I'll give Julian credit for is like he is the guy that realizes I just got to fit the role. Right? Julian Phillips got 17 minutes the other day. 2 shots.
Yeah.
I'm not shooting this ball. I'm out here to defend. I'm out here to rebound. I'm out here to help around the rim. I'm going to try and get some of the scraps. And the
switchability. He's probably one of the most switchable players we have defensively on the team. So
yeah. And I think if you're going to take a chance on a guy right now, listen, they're all young, but I'm taking a chance on the 21-year-old small forward who actually has some weight to him already than the 21-year-old 6'7" point guard who gets moved around kind of easily.
There you go.
So for me, listen, they both need work. The future of them on the team is we could lose both of them tomorrow and none of us will remember.
Until they go to another team and they're averaging like 8 points, because it doesn't have to be a lot. Bulls fans, they go somewhere, average 8, 2, and 2, and they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe we got rid of this guy."
Bro, since I've been back, and this has stopped while I was gone, the amount of people who are still upset about Wendell Carter Jr.
No, it did not stop while you were gone. I was hearing the live.
It stopped for me while I was gone.
Luckily, you didn't have to deal with it, bro.
The amount of people still upset about Wendell Carter Jr.
The thing that we lost in the Boots trade was not that we sent out Wendell. It was the fact that we sent out 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
That's the thing that we lost. The Wendell part of it is neither here nor there, bro. You know what irks me? It's the Wendell Carter people. It's the Chris Duarte truthers, and now the Kevin Huerter truthers. Like, those 3 groups of people. Kevin Huerter truthers, bro. I had people in the comments telling me I was tripping because they were like, Kevin Huerter is clearly going to take over the starting role for the Bulls.
You know what? I'll say this, though. Kevin Huerter has shown you something in the NBA where you can at least say you should have Kevin Huerter truthers.
It makes some sense.
I get a little
Chris
bit more.
Duarte truthers made no sense ever to me, bro.
Come on, dog. Chris Duarte had a hot couple of weeks in his rookie
3 years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say in his rookie year. Like, I was trying to remember. I don't know, bro, but like the Wendell mugs, they throw me off. You'd be like, we lost a great young big. I'm like, great young big. This man is averaging like 8 points a game. You know what?
What's starting to teeter to that too as well, and we need to have this conversation one day, is the Lauri Markkanen truthers. Because for y'all that can play, Lauri Markkanen, I need everybody to realize this. He's 7 foot Zach LaVine. He's 7 foot Zach LaVine.
I ain't gonna lie to you though. I would take. I saw this yesterday because I was watching the Jazz, and the funny thing about the Jazz is, as I watch them, I feel like every single one of the players on that team would be better if they just weren't on that team. Like, I was like, John Collins is a better big somewhere else.
But then you look at it and you realize everybody who actually on that team who's been on other teams wasn't that good on other teams except Clarkson.
Yeah, but I think Lauri comes into a team now with a little bit different cachet. Like he went to Cleveland and was like fresh coming off of the bench for the Bulls. So they were just like, get out there, figure it out, and we'll get you shots where we can. Now he's getting shots. Now he's going to another team getting shots. I wouldn't mind Lauri Markkanen coming back.
But here's the thing,
I don't want him as the star, though. He got to be the 2.
That's the thing. It's very rare that a player that goes to a team and the reason why they start looking good is because people are like, oh, bet you get all the shots now. When they go to a team that's like, oh, now you got to fit into the system. You're not going to get all the shots. It's very rare that player ends up still being good on a new team. Because now they got to fit in the system.
This is true. Now you got to fit in the system. Now you're not the system. So it definitely make a difference. He has progressively gotten worse every year he's been in Utah. And he still is not a healthy player. Like, I think people forget that. The reason Lauri left here outside of just like the fit with the fit with Vooch was like, Lauri was hurt all the time. Every year. His healthiest season ever is his rookie year, and he ended that season hurt.
He's 7 foot Zach LaVine. I'm just saying, bro. Like, I'm just saying. Anyway, any last thoughts, Pat, before we get up out of here, bro?
Shout out to DeMar DeRozan hitting game winners still, man.
Oh, absolutely.
I saw that yesterday. I got excited, man. I was like, look at DeMar out here, man. It's balling. They ain't going nowhere. They ain't going nowhere. Y'all stay safe out there.
Y'all can follow us at Locked On Bulls. You can follow Pat at Pat the Designer. You can follow me at CEO Hayes. We are a member of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're a cheer team every single day. We are free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire TV, and now Roku TV as well. We'll see you guys on tonight after the game. Love you guys. Go Bulls. Peace.
Zach LaVine back there, 17 points next to DeMar DeRozan, too.